Hey everyone, I am going to do a live reading of Love and Ghosts, Crescent City Ghost Tours, Book 1 by Carrie Pulkinen, presented by Itsy Book Bits. Chapter 1. What about a one-night stand, or a series of them? Trish asked. Emily Rollins cast a sideways glance at her friend. I think I need to swear off men altogether. She gathered her billowing crimson skirt in her hands and climbed the stairs toward the hotel entrance, placing each step with precision. Practicality wasn't on the list of requirements when she selected her costume for the masked movie character ball, and the last thing she needed was to trip on a layer of satin and tumble down before she even got inside. Trish adjusted her mask. You can't punish yourself forever, Em. You promised you tried to have fun tonight. She sighed and peered out over Canal Street, the dividing line separating the French Quarter from the rest of New Orleans. An October breeze raised goosebumps on her arms, and she shivered as she turned and drifted up the stairs. I'm not punishing myself. I'm just, She swallowed the sour taste in her mouth. It doesn't feel right to have fun so soon. As they stepped inside the Maison de Fleurs, soft classical music replaced the roar of outside traffic, and green carpet squished beneath her stilettos. Trish touched her elbow. It's been more than a year. It's time to move on. I know. She drew her shoulders toward her ears and wrapped her arms around her middle. But after Jessica died... Well, tonight you're the Queen of Hearts, darling, and you're smoldering. Every hot-blooded man who's passed through this lobby has checked you out. Emily rolled her eyes, but her friend's abrupt change in subject did help loosen the vice grip squeezing her chest. Now, the damn corset was the only thing keeping her from breathing properly. Trish... Seriously, at least 10 different men have given you a once-over in the 5 minutes we've been standing here. She laughed. No one was checking her out, and she'd prove it. She whirled around to face the room, daring someone to look at her. A Captain Jack Sparrow look-alike, wearing a simple black eye mask, bowed formally, wiping the smug smile right off her face. Trish nodded. Look, babe, all I'm saying is you're new in town. It's a masquerade, so the whole point is mystery. You can be anybody you want to be tonight, and no one will know the difference. Let me teach you how to have fun for a change. She crossed her arms. And no, I know how to have fun. Sure, if you like wet blankets and cold showers, come on. Trish linked arms with Emily and dragged her toward the ballroom. Emily stopped outside the door and yanked her arm free. Her friend's teasing words stung. She'd come to New Orleans for a fresh start, to get away from the guilt that had been chewing her to bits and spitting out the pieces. And she had moved on, hadn't she? She'd done plenty of new things. An indoor skydiving place opened near her apartment a month ago, but she hadn't worked up the nerve to check the prices. Iconic streetcars chugged along the tracks every 10 minutes in front of the urgent care clinic where she worked, but she'd never hopped on one. Hell, the only reason she'd been to Bourbon Street was because Trish dragged her there. Aside from her occasional walks through Jackson Square, she hadn't explored the city she now called home. Her throat tightened. Maybe she hadn't moved on at all. All right, if I'm a wet blanket, what do you suggest? Should I make out with the first guy I see? Dance on the tables? Just let loose, relax, maybe hook up with a bad boy for once in your life. That's what you need, a sexy New Orleans man to show you the city, get your mind off things. I've dated bad boys before. Trish laughed and pulled her away from the door as a couple dressed as Princess Leia and Han Solo stepped past them. Who? Philip? He rode a motorcycle once. He's an actuary, Em. You can't get any more boring than that. She chewed the inside of her cheek. He cheated on me. That makes him bad. Her friend wrapped her arm around her shoulders. That's the wrong kind of bad, babe. And anyway, that Jack is cheating on you turned out to be for the best. If he can't stick by you through the tough times, good riddance. It was quite a wake-up call, wasn't it? And now you're here with me, learning to live the life Jessica would have wanted for you, she chuckled. From the authority and having fun. You got that right. She led her through the double doors into the ballroom. Emily gasped. 30-foot ceiling soared above with two massive chandeliers dripping with crystals, hanging side by side in the center of the room. A polished wood dance floor took up most of the space, and a band on a raised platform belted out a smooth rendition of Frank Sinatra's Fly Me to the Moon. A generous buffet, complete with shrimp cocktail, boudin, and oysters on the half-shell, sat against the wall, and an open bar stood catty-cornered to the food. Hundreds of masked people in elaborated costumes representing characters from all genres of movies milled about the ballroom, mingling, dancing, laughing, having fun. Drinks first, Trish led the way to the bar. Maybe her friend was right. Maybe she did need to let loose tonight. It had been a year since her sister's death. That fresh start needed to begin sometime. She'd been stagnant long enough. If a masquerade ball wasn't the perfect opportunity to elicit change, what was? Trish handed her a gin and tonic. So, what's the plan? Emily grinned. Dare me. What? Like when we were kids. Dare me to do something outrageous, and I'll do it. Trish sipped her gin fizz. Seriously? I know you can't see my eyebrows through this mask, but I'm arching one in disbelief. Her pulse quickened, and she swallowed before the lump could form in her throat. Yes, I mean it. I promised I would have fun, and you're going to teach me how. Her friend slammed her hand on the bar. 2 shots of tequila, please. The bartender poured the drinks, and Trish handed Emily the tiny glass. All right, I dare you to kiss a stranger. That's it? Just kiss someone? Not just kiss. 1, it has to be on the man's mouth, and 2, there has to be tongue. She chewed her bottom lip and stared at the liquid courage in the glass. A kiss. She could do that, couldn't she? Taking a deep breath, she tossed back the shot and set the glass on the bar. The tequila burned as it made its way down her throat and into her stomach. Kiss a man with tongue. Done. Trish downed her shot and grinned. And you are not, under any circumstances, to give him your number. Why not? I don't want you getting all goo-goo-eyed over the first guy you meet. This city is a living, breathing entity, and it has to be experienced fully before you settle down. Get your fill of fun before you do anything else. Yes, ma'am. Emily gave her a mock salute and ordered another gin and tonic. She was going to need it. Another beautiful party, Mama. Well done. Jean Leblanc kissed Madeleine on the cheek and tousled the purple feathers adorning her sequined mask. Her floor-length black dress curled up in 8 places on the hem. Ursula the sea witch's tentacles. And every time he took a step, he nearly tripped on one and busted his ass on the dance floor. All those years of dance lessons as a kid hadn't prepared him for waltzing with an octopus. Thank you. I do know how to throw a party, don't I? Her satisfied gaze swept the room before landing on him. You always have. He twirled his mom across the dance floor, carefully avoiding her tentacles and hoping to evade the question he could tell she'd been biting back all evening. At least she was making an effort tonight. Tell me, son, there are so many beautiful women here, but the only one you've danced with is your mother. Why? And there went her self-restraint. He faked a smile. I don't know. I guess I'm not in the mood to deal with a woman tonight. When will you be? Grinding his teeth, he tried to quell his irritation and come up with an answer that would appease her. I date every now and then, Mama. Nothing to worry about. First dates don't count, unless you have had a second date I don't know about. You know I haven't, he sighed. I know what love feels like, and I'm not going to waste my time on someone it could never happen with, if it could ever happen again. She narrowed her eyes. Have you heard from Courtney lately? He stifled a groan. She knew the answer to that too. It's been almost 2 years since her spirit made contact. I don't want to talk about this. Sweetheart, she's been dead for 3. Even her ghost has moved on. Don't you think it's time you did too? She would want you to be happy. He pressed his hand into her back and eased her into a fast spin. I'm dancing with the most beautiful woman at the ball. I am happy. She playfully swatted him on the shoulder. If charm won't work on me, young man, I taught you everything you know. The song ended, and he led her to the bar. Madeline wouldn't be happy until he was married with a kid or two, and he'd get there eventually. Maybe. But he wasn't going to force it. If he ever found the right woman, he'd know. Why would he waste his time with anyone else? His mom had done nothing but worry about him since the day his wife died. Hell, he'd worried about himself for a while, but he really was ready to move on, if the right woman came along. That's what he told himself anyway. Still, he had to do something to get her off his back tonight, or she'd be throwing women at him every time he turned around. I'll make you a deal. I'll dance with the first person who recognizes my costume. Hasn't anyone gotten it right yet? It's a classic 80s movie. Someone will recognize it. He picked up a scotch on the rocks and took a sip. His mom grinned. It would be more convincing if you had a buttercup. Maybe I will find her tonight. I hope you do. Mint julep in hand, she patted his cheek and sashayed into the crowd to mingle. The chances were slim. He'd been called Zorro 7 times already, and he certainly couldn't see himself dating a woman who didn't recognize the main character of one of his favorite movies. His mother was right, though. Courtney had only come back to console him the first year after her death. He hadn't heard from her since, so she had obviously moved on. It was time he did, too. Mr. Sean! A tiny cold hand tugged on his. He smiled at the little girl, and her blonde ringlets bounced as she giggled and pointed to a large framed sketch hanging on the wall. That's me! She vanished and reappeared next to her brother across the room. Sean and his team had investigated this building many times. He knew all the ghosts that resided here, and most of them were friendly. The portrait of the children was his donation to the charity. This ball and every event his mom planned this year benefited the local animal shelters. A hotel the size of this one would pay thousands for a sketch of the spirits that haunted it, and he was more than happy to donate the proceeds to a good cause. He still hadn't figured out how or when the siblings died. They didn't do much more than play and giggle. Her name was Alice, her brother was Jonathan, and that was the most they'd be willing or able to share so far. That they'd shown themselves to him tonight was a good sign, though. He'd have to get his team back for another investigation. But now he had a promise to keep. He scanned the crowd, searching for friendly faces. No need to waste his time on a woman who couldn't have fun at a party like this. If the food and free-flowing alcohol weren't enough, the band was on fire. But all these damn masks made it hard to see people's eyes. He'd have to go for smiles. A blonde and a redhead sat at a high table near the dance floor. The Red Queen and the White Queen from Alice in Wonderland. Nice choice. Red laughed heartily at something the blonde said. Her crimson lips curved into a smile that lit up her whole face. She was definitely having a good time. He ambled closer to the table to get a better look, and damn, did he like what he saw. Fiery red hair flowed over her shoulders and down her back. Her creamy breast nearly spilled out the top of her tight-laced corset, and her shiny red high heels peeked out from beneath a flowing skirt that unfortunately blocked his view of her legs. Something about all that red had him burning inside. The Lone Ranger escorted the White Queen to the dance floor, and Red's smile didn't fade. She sipped on a clear drink and swirled the ice in the glass. His pulse quickened. Maybe he was in the mood to deal with a woman tonight, after all. Emily laughed as the Lone Ranger dipped Trish on the dance floor and nearly chopped her on her head. The bartender wasn't stingy with the alcohol, and after the shot of tequila and her second gin and tonic, her head spun in a delightful way. She pushed the glass away anymore, and it might affect her judgment. She was on a mission, but not just any guy would do. If she was going to kiss a stranger tonight, she wanted to feel something. Passion. Her life had been devoid of that emotion for nearly a year. Of course, she was mostly to blame for the downward spiral her last relationship had fallen into, but she could change. Trish only asked for a kiss. Emily would one-up her friend and make sure the kiss made her burn.